Hello, I'm constitutional attorney Catherine Henry, and welcome to this week's Constitution segment recap for Season 2, Episode 13 of Restore Freedom Weekly. This week we talked about overcoming self-representation roadblocks. This is just a simple recap, so keep in mind if you want the full details on everything we discussed, check out that full episode, the link for which is on page 2 of this slideshow. And of course, as always, the link for this slideshow is in the description of today's segment. So this week we were talking about overcoming those self-representation roadblocks, starting with the concept of e-filing. E-filing systems make courts more accessible, right? Wrong. We talked in detail about those concepts of why it should be that it makes things easier than the old traditional method of filing by paper, yet how things can go so wrong, or how people can have more roadblocks put in their way in terms of access to the courts because of that e-filing system. We specifically were discussing the roadblocks that we have been experiencing in our own case currently with the city of Ormond Beach and how we overcame those roadblocks to walk you through your own kinds of situations and what to expect and how you can work through some situations yourself. Why? Because we want to help self-represented non-attorneys navigate through your own way through the legal system, and whether that means with emergency motions, civil cover sheets, designation of email forms, hidden court filing fees, or anything else. That's what we're trying to do here. Now, keep in mind the Tuesday true or false question of the week is always posted at 10 o'clock in the morning on our YouTube and Telegram channels. That's t.me/restore freedom or youtube.com/restore freedom. Check those out. You can answer at any time between 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. when the answer is then posted. So the six main things that happened in our case with the city of Ormond Beach just within the last week or so were, and each hurdle of it on its own was enough to put the brakes on us getting justice, or at least getting the chance to have some justice. And so describing the whole situation for those of you who are new, basically we have illegal orders that were entered by a special magistrate following a special magistrate hearing. The hearing was on February 27th. The orders came to me about a week later, and they purport to give the authority of Ormond Beach code enforcement to enter onto our property, remove our privacy fence, our thousands of pavers, and our 2 shipping containers that we have right next to each other, end to end, I should say, that they then supposedly can dispose of that property, charge us for removing and disposing of that property, use those charges to create a lien not only against our real estate, but against our personal property as well. And then these orders supposedly create full immunity for the city officials involved so that they cannot be criminally or civilly charged for doing this to us. All of that is entirely illegal, and obviously why we're appealing the case. So in this situation, it was very urgent because those orders, one of the ways they violated our due process rights were that they fast tracked all of this to happen starting yesterday or 3 days ago on April 10th. That's when the city was supposed to be able to come and start ripping the stuff right out of our homestead. And all without any kind of eminent domain or proper takings case done. Certainly no compensation paid to me. As I told you, they're trying to bill me for taking my stuff illegally, and unconstitutionally. In any of these situations, we would have not had the chance to stop the city from illegally and unconstitutionally taking our property had we not had the persistence, the knowledge, and the know-how to try to work through some of these roadblocks. And for any of you that might be in a similar situation, that's why we want to inform you as well. So first, we weren't given a court file number, and we had to use a lot of persistence in that, and eventually did. Next, we had an issue of well, let me just start working through these. First of all, let me say that with all of these, and especially with when it comes in terms of how we were actually getting our court file process to the point where we got a court file number and then could file the emergency motions, etc. You need to, number one, be accurate and prepared, but you then need to be respectful and kind and be persistent, and then be appreciative when you finally get the person that's finally doing the right thing, even though that's what their job is to do. Be appreciative, be respectful, be kind, because we're all just humans, and it's going to do you good in the long run to be more respectful and kind than nasty about it, even if you're accurate and prepared and know that you're in the right. So I included some slides in here for your reference from prior episodes where we went over what some of these documents were, showing some of that accuracy and preparation where there's court rules listed next to a particular document that's needed. And then you'll see, again, where we were talking step by step in prior episodes about what some of those procedures are that you need to check and double check, and how we were walking you through that process to be accurate and prepared. And so, anyway, in the end, we were able to get that court file number. I also then talked to you guys about the $300 additional that we were required to pay, and how essentially what they gave me was a workaround to making sure they're, according to them, the full filing fee was paid. But again, choosing to pick my battles, I took their workaround and went with it, and we were able to get our motion in front of the judge. Number 3, civil cover sheet in the state of Florida. The rules of procedure require a civil cover sheet to be filed in all civil cases, and they were saying that I needed to jump through some procedural hoops with this form, even though it actually clearly requires them as the clerk's office to do it. So I just talked with you guys about, again, being prepared, knowing the court rules, and I actually even had an acknowledgement on file where I was acknowledging the court rule, and specifically that I knew that they had to be the ones to file it. So I just referred them back to that, and eventually it got them to the point of doing what they needed to do so that I could get my case opened. And then they were denying a form that I was required by court rule to have filed by Monday, by saying that it didn't apply in my case, even though there was nothing to back it up. There was no court rule saying that. So I talked with you guys about what it takes, and how, how I basically walked through their online system and figured out a way that I would file it on my own, even though it was supposed to be the court reporter, as you see from this slide, that filed that. I was working with her, again, being respectful and kind to everybody involved, but being prepared and knowledgeable about what the requirements actually were, and figuring out how to get it filed nonetheless, not letting them stop me from filing what I know I'm required to, so they can't throw it out on a procedural technicality later. Then I talked with you guys about how the order that was initially signed by a judge, even though I hadn't received it for 5 days and after it was signed, that it didn't have the stay provision, that where they were going to push pause on the city being able to come and rip everything up. That it took persistence and kindness and respect, and eventually I was able to get to the point where an amended order was issued that not only required the city to respond in writing in 10 days, but put it in writing that there is a stay on the lower court's order, so the city cannot come out and try to enforce that in the meantime. Um, Lastly, and I put all the relevant court rules in here for you. Again, it's more of not so much focusing on what the requirement is, but just giving you that so you know what the requirements are. But today's discussion and Tuesday's episode was really about how to walk you through, when you know something is required of you, how to think outside of the box and make sure you're meeting all the requirements, even though somebody might be verbally telling you at the courthouse, oh no, you don't have to do that. Doing what you know you need to do and getting around those roadblocks. Lastly, I talked about the designation of email form and that whole situation, and how I had already complied in every way, but still jumping through whatever necessary hoops were there and continuing to follow through with multiple people at the courthouse, so that that would be issued first before the 2 orders were processed, so that when they were processed, I would actually get a copy of those orders pushing pause on all that evil doing by the city. If you want to be able to see all those documents that I filed, copies of those circuit court orders I just mentioned, even the criminal complaints I filed against them, or the land development complaints that I filed against the city of Ormond Beach itself, or the minutes, the official minutes from that meeting, that hearing, please check out restorefreedomkh.com/Ormond Beach case. That link, of course, is on this page of the slideshow. And that Give, Send, Go link I put in there as well, again, so you can check that out and choose to support us with $1, $5, $500, $1,000, however you see fit, to keep us from having our home destroyed, literally, unconstitutionally, and keep us going, to keep this fight going for not just our family and our homestead, but for all others who don't have the knowledge or expertise to fight for themselves. If you want any more information, make sure to check out that full episode from Tuesday, the Wednesday Way to Get Involved challenge from yesterday, and tomorrow's Friday Freedom Fighting Tools. Thanks so much for joining us today. As always, it's a pleasure, and we look forward to being with you on this journey to restore freedom.
Make sure to like, follow, subscribe, and share Restore Freedom.